Who says there's no such thing as monsters? Digimon, digital monsters, Digimon are the champions. Digimon, digital monsters, Digimon are the champions. Change into digital champions to save the digital world.
Hey, so, Digimon the movie. Who else watched this monstrosity of an English dub growing up? You know, the one where they stitched together 3 entirely different films with entirely different tones, and even as a toddler you could kinda tell something was up, but they actually managed to spin them into somewhat of a cohesive narrative. I actually applaud the English localization team on their efforts. Honestly, I do. That can't have been easy. And considering how it's still ruthlessly mocked to this day, the work they did does seem a bit thankless. After years of only knowing the American version, I was curious to actually see the raw material this film was made of, so I finally went back and watched the original 3 Japanese films, Digimon Adventure, Our War Game, Digimon Adventure 2, Digimon Hurricane Landing / Transcendent Evolution, The Golden Digimentals. Jesus, what a mouthful. Now, we're only going to be taking a closer look at the first of those 3 films today. This will be your 2-parter, where next time I'm going to be covering the second film. Why not the third film, you ask? For one, I'm just more interested in the first 2. Maybe I'll tackle that third film one day, but I feel like these first 2 run together pretty well as a continuous narrative and serve as its own discussion. So, with that out of the way, let's take a trip back in history to a little film that started the entire Digimon franchise. A story about a little girl and her brother who find a mysterious monster. 1999's Digimon Adventure. This film was used as the first third of the English Digimon movie. The prologue, where you see Kari and Tai running around being toddlers, getting to meet Koromon for the first time, all that good stuff. That was all taken from the pilot for the Digimon Adventure series. Oh, and it was directed by Mamoru Hosoda. Yes, that Mamoru Hosoda. This 20-minute film was the pitch that actually got Digimon turned from the digital monster virtual pet toy into an anime. So, a brief plot summary. Tai and Kari, also known as Taichi and Hikari from the original dub, are tiny babies, and a weird internet egg gets birthed from their computer somehow. The egg hatches, and it's a small, shadowy little dude, and then Kari whistles at it, and then it's a slightly bigger pink dude that kisses the kids? Yeah, so apparently in the Japanese version, Koromon was like trying to eat them? I don't know which is worse. But anyway, after that, Koromon becomes big orange dinosaur dude. Yeets out of the window with Hikari in tow, Taichi gives chase, and what's that? Another internet creature shows up? And then, big fight. Dino Boy becomes Greymon, he and Polly fight.
Oh, Polly want a cracker? A really big cracker?
Then both of them disappear. Huh. Alright. So, the differences between versions were immediately evident to me, though both keep the same basic sequence of events. As is standard for a lot of English localizations, there was a lot more...
Now every time that thing changed shape, or what we now call Digimon, I'm part of a team called the Digidestin. Surge. There were only a handful of us at first. Of course, there was only added a few members since then. Digital world. That's
talking. A lot more exposition, a lot more characters just stating how they're feeling instead of leaving it to the audience to interpret how they're feeling. You get the idea. There's also a constant pumping soundtrack of apparently all the greatest hits of the day. You have Bare Naked Ladies, Kids in America, All-Star. Seriously, the English version soundtrack is like a time capsule to the early 2000s. I mean, like, I really gotta ask, did they want to be Shrek 2? I know, Shrek 2 came out in 2004, don't at me. maybe it's just because I was used to all this talking in the English version, but I was kind of surprised by just how quiet the Japanese version is. It's almost eerie. The silence calls attention to just how odd the whole situation is. And the fact that you have this weird, cartoonish monster creature moving around in very realistic ways, it's actually kind of creepy. It gives me very E.T. vibes. You can feel that this film is a pitch, but not in a bad way at all. It kind of embodies this rough, raw, first draft of a story energy to me. It's a microcosm, an embryo of what was to come in the TV series. You can also tell this is sort of a microcosmic example of its creator's later work. Mamoru Hosoda would go on to direct a number of films touching on similar themes. Ordinary children, who are so ordinary they ugly cry, dealing with ordinary problems through the vector of supernatural stories. Wolf Children is a story about motherhood, told through the premise that werewolves are real. The Girl Who Led Through Time is a coming-of-age tale set in a world where time travel exists, etc., etc. And in a similar way, the bits that are ordinary in Digimon Adventure are by no means boring. The animation is expressive, kinetic. The way the kids were animated, it just felt very true to life. They kind of stumble and wobble around like they don't quite know how to move yet. And the bits that are extraordinary are brought down to earth by imbuing these supernatural creatures with a very real sense of weight and scale. And in such a short, quiet little film, this weight and scale is conveyed mostly through the mundane. But the battle at the end keeps this sense of weight and realism from the smaller scenes. The fight choreography is punctuated by just enough time to breathe between impacts to build tension and make the payoffs really hit. This rough feel is tangible, something you can reach out and touch. And there are a lot of moments in this, and a great deal of Hosoda's work, where a gesture, an expression, will spark a memory in the viewer. It settles on a nice balance between the normal world that we know and the fantastical digital one. I feel like the short conveys this one strong core theme that would define Digimon as a franchise. The Nakama, man!
You are my Nakama! And nothing will fucking change that, you fucking bitch!
This strong, heartwarming bond between the Digimon and their chosen child, symbolically, past all the, fantastical elements, this is just a story of a child and their animal companion. And that's a very grounded human thing that can resonate with just about anybody. And all this praise, though, I will have to make a complaint. And mind you, it may not even matter to some viewers, but this one element almost ruins the whole thing for me. This short film has only one song on its soundtrack. And they have to make this song last for an entire 20-minute short film. And it is Ravel's Bolero. Which, if you're familiar with that song, if you've heard the first 20 seconds of Bolero, you have heard the entirety of Bolero. It's one melody played over and over again across a variety of different scenes. For me at least, it created this strange sense that every single scene had the same flat emotion behind it. Bolero is like both upbeat and kind of eerie, I feel. And when you're using the same piece of music for scenes that feel tense, playful, peaceful, chaotic, suspenseful, it all blends together rather muddily. Instead of evoking a vast palette of moods, it left me feeling unable to access the emotions in each scene. Like, movie, how do you want this scene to make me feel? Why is this something I need to figure out? Are you being intentionally cryptic? And no, I don't think this effect was at all intentional. I think this song was just easy to use because it was in the public domain, and this might just be because I have some pretty bad sound sensitivity issues, but by the 10-minute mark, I was tearing out my hair, pleading they play something else.
We want something else! We want something else! We want something else! We want something else!
Honestly, if not for this issue, hell, I'd probably go back and give this film another watch. What else is different about this version, you may ask? What else was kept from your innocent little American child eyes? Well, for one, there's a whole scene cut out of the English version where Tai and Kari's dad comes home late from work, pissed drunk. It's kind of implied he has a drinking problem, and this scene hit me like, oh, that's why we never see the dad in the English version. I always just assumed their mother was a single parent or something. I don't know how I feel about this change. For me, the scene doesn't really add anything either way. It's just kind of another mundane detail in these child's lives that we get to see. It's another small thing that colors in this brief glimpse we're getting. But to me, it's not endearing, it's just kind of a little sad and uncomfortable. Not a huge loss, to me at least. There's a lot of other little moments that were clearly altered in the English dub to lessen the sense of danger the characters were experiencing. For instance, at one point in the original, giant Agumon is wandering into the street and suddenly a truck rushes past. And it really looks like Agumon and Kari just fucking died. And then Agumon jumps down into the frame. He's fine. In the English dub,
Did you see that?
No, I was sleeping.
But you're driving!
so really, you're never left wondering if Agumon is okay or not. Which again, I don't see this as an objectively bad change, but it's clearly different. Lower stakes, sillier tone, something to make the kids laugh instead of cry. But it is yet another small example of English localizations not trusting their young audience enough to cope with fear and tension. And I think that steals something away from the drama. However, maybe this is just because I have a dumb sense of humor, but I think this particular change was funny enough to justify its existence, which is a good deal better than the joyless, toothless way these changes tend to pan out.
Check his pulse, Yugi.
Ugh. Then we come to the climax of the film, which I would argue isn't even the battle, it's this little moment where Tai blows Kari's whistle to try and wake up Greymon. It's an important moment, the emotional high to this entire film. Tai whistling as hard as his little lungs will allow, all the time pinning a huge, loud target on himself and Kari just to try and wake Greymon up. It's honestly really sweet. And again, this feeling of nakama, the connection between the child and his big monster friend. The English and Japanese moments are similar, but their tone is entirely different. Some of you may remember it like this.
Come on, Ty.
But here's how it plays out in Japanese. Be honest. Did your neck hairs stand on end at that last clip during the first one? I think both managed to hit a powerful emotional high, but where the English is a triumphant high, the Japanese is a fearful high, a fever pitch of tension. It feels desperate. English Tai is supported by blaring trumpets cheering him on, along with the other kids. We know it's going to be alright, but there's just enough doubt to make it exciting. Japanese Tai, though, is completely alone in this huge span of silence, and the sound just echoes. And we're left just enough time to wonder, did Greymon just, fucking die? So, Do I think the Japanese is the superior version? Well, it's actually a bit more complicated than that. I think both the versions have their merits, but they're both extremely different experiences. The prologue of the English localization is far more, for lack of a better word, cutesy, snarky, and, well, silly.
That night started like every other one. Ty was making his 4th trip to the bathroom.
And it serves a very different purpose. The English film uses this section to set up the world, characters, the whole concept of Digimon, and so this section of the story is very narration heavy and takes away from its standalone quality. But especially for kids growing up in the United States, this film is a pretty good little piece of nostalgia. It's charming in its own way. But I do think that the original is certainly a more artistically inventive experience. It feels more, for lack of a better word, real. You really feel like you're watching a small section out of the lives of 2 ordinary children, and watching how they deal with a small supernatural creature stumbling into their lives. The only flaw I personally have with it, honestly, is the use of fucking Bolero. That is its only sin. Otherwise, I think its warmth, mystery, and charm far exceeds the English version. And I'm kind of amazed that this all came from a film designed to sell toys. Before reading up on the history, I literally didn't know a single thing about the toys that came before the series. Maybe that means time has shown what meant more to people in the end. These characters, this world, this talent, this story. I think it all meant something to the people making it, and so it obviously meant something to the people watching it. I think it's a gem. I would definitely recommend giving it a watch, whether you're a Hosoda fan, a Digimon fan, or someone who just likes animation. I'm sure you'll find something you like.
僕たちの世界では出会ってはいけないモンスターだった。だから今、僕はここにいる。